Hey there, this is Sifu Slim out at Carlin Park in Jupiter, Florida, and we've got a new tennis player who's got some injuries, and so we're going to talk to him about what's going on. Tell us your name and what's going on.
Yeah, so how you doing? My name is Lex Feliciano. I'm new to tennis, and the first few drills I wound up spraining both of my calves and also spraining my right groin. So started doing some, videos and trying to do some, building up the muscles around those injuries. And then I started feeling weakness in my knees, which I've never ever felt before in my life. So I'm like, what's going on? And it's like, so I'm trying to find the balance between strengthening all the other muscles and staying active. And that's like kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, well I have one thing before we start there. Would you mind filming me? So there's a great book, it's called The Sports Gene. And I read that about 8 years ago, and it's written by a guy who's a top journalist, and he was a cross-country runner in college, and now he works for a big periodical. And what his studies show that he looked into during the time of his book is that the soccer players, called football in Spanish and French and German, is they're built like I am. And they would be built like you are, but without as much bulk on you. And what is the reason for that? Does anybody have any idea why they're not the bigger muscular?
Lengthy muscles versus
not as pumped, and not as, I'm an ectomorph, like Michael Jackson would be an ectomorph, and the mesomorphs would be the middle builds, like Schwarzenegger would have been a big mesomorph. So why aren't soccer players and sprinters that have to do long duration sprinting built like those guys are? Take a guess. It's because they get injured. They're so powerful, like Bo Jackson. You can rip yourself out of your joint. You pull muscles much more quickly because you have all of this takeoff power. And then when you stop, you can plant the stop, and your muscles and joints can't handle that. Although those kids, when they were 10 and 12, they did real well. It's when they start becoming testosterone-filled adults, when they're 16, 18, 20, that they start getting injured so frequently. That's why the football players only play one direction, and they play for a couple minutes and then they're out, right? They change downs. If they have to go, like in high school, they can do offense and defense, and they can play for 2 hours. So that's one thing to consider, that you're different than a lot of people because you have the ability to put on muscle. So you would be a petite mesomorph is what I would.
Yeah, but whatever muscle I have is not from weights. It's just
natural,
activity based. So I like cycling. I do stand up paddling. I go jogging. So like those are really the things I do. Some push-ups here and there, and dips and calisthenics type stuff. But
so there are things that you can do, but I just wanted to start you out with that because you're a different animal than I am, and I get hurt all the time as well. But I don't have the takeoff power that you have. So that's something to consider. So I'll turn it over to Coach and hear his comments.
So yeah, I like that synopsis of the different body types, and that's why my advice to Lex initially was, my feedback was that because you are explosive, that's why my initial feedback was don't go your top gear. As soon as you feel yourself losing any type of control, it's like a car engine, okay? You could redline it once or twice, right? But if you keep on redlining it, you're going to hurt the engine. You don't want to get near your red line on a tennis court, especially in a clinic situation. You gotta.
I just gotta learn. I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Ping pong with your girlfriend is the amount of power that you probably want to start with.
Yeah, the other thing too, I believe for me, when I'm getting ready for a match and a tournament, I've got to get on the tennis court or in the gym for a good 15, 20, 25 minutes. I got to work up a sweat. I've got to stretch afterwards, and then before I go out on the court to play my match, I stretch again.
So I did jog 3.5 miles before today, so hopefully that's enough to slow me down.
So do you have a daily routine? Do you have a daily routine for warming yourself up in the morning, getting ready, getting your posture going, getting your hip strength and your neck loosened up? And
no, but like I'm new to yoga, so I'm kind of like considering doing some of that stuff. Yeah. But it's like I'm also hearing what's a dynamic stretching versus static stretching, and trying to get into that because I don't know, and it's like just tennis is new, and I'm not as young as I used to be, so.
So one thing I'll share is that when I coach people, I say that within the first 2 weeks, My goal is that you're better at your program than I am at your program. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah.
So they have to know their own body, and they have to take what I give them and adapt that, and then maybe add some other things that they like. So it's got to be head to toe. There's no one calf exercise. If you hurt your calf, which I hurt a sprained ankle several years ago, and I went to the high school, and they gave me one of those boots with a Velcro. Well, I walked out of the high school, which was really far away from the sports training center, to my car. And by the time I got halfway there, I had already had hip issues from walking without being able to use the flexion on my foot. So I went back to the sports trainer at the high school, which is a really tough degree certificate to get. And I told her what happened. She said, it happens all the time. She said, go do the Epsom salts, go do your activating stretching, your acupressure massage, do whatever you can, and don't use this thing, because it was going to mess me up completely.
That's interesting.
Any last words on warm-ups and getting to know yourself?
I think we should use tonight's clinic as a further assessment for Lex, and then have a wrap-up session and I think beforehand, I think especially for you, we should have a nice light warm-up and a brief stretch period, and then wrap it up, and maybe some of the things that I see with his movement and you see with his movement, we can wrap it up afterwards and offer some suggestions.
To be continued.
10-4. Aloha. We'll get back to you soon. Please like, please subscribe, sifuslim.com. Aloha.
So what we'll do is we'll have